Hey, I'm your Korean dad.
Well, I'm the daddy. You're the dad.
I'm the dad.
I'm the daddy. Isn't it obvious?
All right, welcome everyone to the very first episode of the Dad and Daddy podcast. My name is Nick Cho. I'm your Korean dad.
And I'm Kevin Kreider. I'm your daddy.
Here we are.
Yep.
We did it.
Yeah, I know. I wanted to ask you, can we call it the Daddy and Dad show? Because I like to come first.
You know, but we're Korean and I'm older, so I should come first.
What did you say older again? Is it Hajiman?
What?
Yeah.
To say who's older?
Older dad. How do you say older brother or older dad?
Big brother would be, as a guy, would be hyung.
Hyung, that's it.
Right.
Yeah.
Like if you're a girl, older brother would be oppa, which people hear a lot if you watch Korean content.
Yeah.
But
Not Hajiman.
Hajiman kind of means like, however.
Where did I get that
It's okay.
from?
But we want to thank everyone for being here and tuning in today. What's your vision for this? I don't want to spend too much time talking about this, but what is your vision for this collaboration?
I think the vision for me is we don't really get to hear men talk about men stuff, and especially like vulnerable in their own
What do we
ways.
hear men talk about most of the time?
I think men talk about
like sciencey stuff,
Right.
Or mostly pseudoscience, like fake science,
right, or like they're just pretty much telling men what to do. Where I feel like here I can come to you and vice versa, probably more coming to you and talking about, hey, these are the struggles that I have. Or these are the things or thoughts going through my mind, especially as a man entering into my daddy stage. And
Is that what you think of it as? Like you're in your daddy era now?
I'm entering it.
You're entering.
And by the way, when I enter it, I want to be the best daddy I can be.
Mm.
So what better to learn and talk about it with somebody like you?
Yeah.
Whereas like I feel like too, like I said, I think you have so much experience ahead of me. And you're very articulate in that.
We're like a little over 10, like 11 years apart, I think, in age.
Yeah, we're good. We're a good baker's dozen or something, right? In age. And so I think that's enough time.
You're trying to make me older than I am, but
and
that's
plus,
okay.
You're married.
Yes. Well, almost.
Almost.
I've been married.
You've been married.
You've never been married.
Only been engaged.
Okay.
So you got me in that. You also have kids.
That's true.
And
4 million plus kids.
Yeah.
Two biological kids, 1 step kid.
Right. And who knows how many I actually have. I just nobody's claimed me.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot to learn from that.
Yeah.
And plus there's so many days. I don't know if you ever get this, Nick, where you're like, damn, I just wish I had somebody to talk to. And I just don't think a lot of men have any other men to talk to. And I got to tell you, when I talk to another, like, let's just say somebody who doesn't look like me, who's not, devilishly handsome as well, and Korean, and
this guy. That's why he's the daddy.
But if you don't have somebody like that, I feel like there's a disconnect. When I talk to white guys, it's not that they discount my experience, especially as an Asian American. It's just that they don't take that into account.
Right. Because it's not something that they can relate to.
No.
Right.
And it's always like it's not gaslighting. I hate that word so much, but it's more like.
Yeah, we'll talk about
they
that
just
word.
try to think if you don't think about it, or you're
Right.
past being an Asian guy. Like,
Right.
you're just a man now. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I wish the world could see that, but that's not so simplistic.
Yeah. Yeah. We should touch on a few things. It's almost like housekeeping, get it out of the way.
Yeah.
One is that you had a podcast. You're doing, what was it called? Just Kevin Kreider Show?
It's the Kevin Kreider Show.
Yeah.
Super non-creative.
Well, we can talk about, we did an episode. Maybe you'll see some of the clips, but part of it was a secret sort of plot on my part, because you remember we talked about it ahead of time. You were like, oh, I should come on a podcast. I was like, you should forget that podcast. Let's do a podcast together. You're like, let's take one thing at a time. Why don't you come on a podcast first? We did that. We loved the experience. And we left that conversation basically both saying, like, let's do it. Let's make a podcast together.
Totally. I think what ended up happening, and you nailed it right on the spot, nobody really got to know me better. They got to know the guest better.
Yeah.
So then the show's really dependent on the guest. And all throughout my life, I've always been one who bets on myself. And so I think what I was missing was just my experience and my voice.
You like talking about yourself.
I love it. and I've been told I'm pretty good at it.
Yeah.
So I think that's where I was missing, because every time I would try to jump in and talk about things, then I'm like, oh shit, I gotta ask
And
questions.
you're like sort of taking time away from the guest's time, right?
Yeah, and they
Yeah.
didn't come here to talk about me.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, at least up front, we're like, okay, we know we're gonna talk about our stuff.
Yeah. And I feel like there are a lot of podcasts where people will come on and they'll have guests. To me, it's a little bit like, not to speak, poorly of any podcast, like, and they're not doing anything wrong. I think that a lot of the time, it's like, you have a lot to offer. People have a lot to offer, and sometimes it's almost like an insecurity. It's like, well, I'm not enough. I need
Yeah.
to bring on other interesting people, and the banter and the questions that I ask will be interesting for folks. But the other side of it, I think, is that a lot of times when podcasts or shows are just guest driven, then you're competing sort of for attention and time. Like, if you have a certain guest, then it's like, well, I don't know, let's make up a guest. You, if I had a podcast and
It's not really coming up with
well, then
someone.
it's a little bit like, well, did I learn anything new
Mm,
about Kevin on this podcast, or would I have learned more if I just watched 3 episodes of Bling Empire?
right.
Or there was another podcast where he basically said all the same stuff because people asked all the same questions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a little bit like when you watch like movie stars do press, and they're doing the press junket thing where there's like journalist after journalist or person after person asking them questions. Like most of the time, it's the same thing, and then
Yeah.
every so often you'll get like these interesting moments.
Well, that's the thing. I thought I was clever enough where I could come up with new questions a lot.
Uh huh.
And the problem though is that I just like the consistency of seeing the same person. And guess what? It's a great way to get to know you even better,
Sure.
because I've known about you for a long time. I really have.
Yeah.
You've seen some of my work, and we're like, this is a really cool dynamic that you don't get to see. I'm not going to relate it so much as to like in Bling when it was me and Kane,
Uh huh.
but there is kind of a very different personality and aesthetic, if that makes
Sure.
sense. But for some reason, we still get along really well.
I always use and fall back on the sort of like visual idea of like a Venn diagram with like the circles and where there's overlap and things like that. And it always is interesting to talk about contrast and so diversity of a certain type where it's like, yeah, I think that we're different enough, but we have enough in common. And more than in common, I think that we have, again, a certain intersection,
Yeah.
and even in that intersection, a lot of the things are like being different sides of a coin, right?
Yeah.
Rather than kind of on the same page,
Also,
like fully.
I think for you coming in, it was kind of like what I call just a God sending. Because I was thinking to myself, before we started talking about doing this, I was like, man, how am I going to keep doing this? Like, really,
Yeah.
solo.
Yeah.
And then when you said, hey, I think I want to come and co host, I was like, wow, this could be it.
Yeah.
And then we were talking about masculinity, what it means to be a man today, your experience,
Yeah.
what you're writing. And I was like, this is really a great blend. And then take it one step further. When we started talking, I was like, the good chemistry was going on. And then you were in the mindset coming in more as a co host,
Right.
not as a guest.
Right.
So we were able to like really connect in that way.
Yeah.
And I think that made all the difference.
Yeah. And for me as a content creator, I've talked a lot with different folks about maybe doing something like this. I think that for me and the type of content that I've been doing, one of the interesting challenges is like how the sort of real me kind of fits into things. Like this is much more the real me, like in terms of the conversation, mainly because the kind of content that I make, the whole premise behind it for me was like, what if I kind of submit to the viewer? Like, I'm your dad. I'm here for you and primarily you.
Right.
Like, not like necessarily for myself in those situations. And so it's not that it's like a fake persona, the Korean dad. It's an aspect of me. But I've sort of struggled to figure out like, well, how do I integrate like more sides of me, if not like the full
Yeah.
myself? In terms of putting myself out there. Partly I think it's like a certain kind of Korean like modesty thing where it's like, well, no one wants to know the real me anyway. Whereas you don't have any of those kind of problems. You're
No.
like,
I'm
oh,
like,
I
who
think
wouldn't want to know me?
you're like, people want to see the whole me.
Well, it's almost like this too. Like it's very open that I'm in AA, so I'm an Alcoholics
Mm.
Anonymous. I meet up with a
How long have
sponsor
you been sober now?
over 10 years
Yeah,
now.
congratulations.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
You know, that's the only time anybody ever really congratulates me every time. Whenever I talk about sobriety, I'm like,
Really?
what's my day count? People are always like, congratulations.
Well, I'm gonna congratulate you on other stuff.
Please do.
Yeah.
Because whenever I talk about other stuff, there's like, whatever. But I'm really proud of my sobriety too, though. So,
Yeah.
whatever. Whenever I meet up with my sponsor, I know I think about this because I come up with my problems and I tell him stuff and he tells me how to get through things soberly in a spiritual way. I'm always like, man, what if we film this?
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
But like that's what I feel like this is for me, or at least
Mm,
I want it to be a little bit selfishly
mm,
because every time I talk to you, I do learn and walk away with stuff that I self reflect on. I was like, oh
mm.
yeah, maybe I am a shitty person in that sense. Not a shitty, but like kind of like our last conversation
Uh-huh.
was, well, why do you keep working with amateurs then? You know?
Yeah, Kevin has shared a story with me about frustrations working with different people in Hollywood and in entertainment, and the
Specifically.
varying, let's put it like euphemize it a little bit, the varying experiences that you've had.
Yeah. And so then even people in my building that I live with and just realize, well, why do I have to entertain that? I don't know
Yeah.
why I do. It's like, I think it's because I want people to like me, I guess.
There's nothing wrong with wanting people to like you, though.
No, but at the expense, right? Have you
As
ever
long as
done that?
right, you gotta like yourself in the
Yeah,
process.
because have you ever done that? It's like, you shouldn't be doing this, but you're like, I want that person to like me. And by the way, it's not going to harm me. But then you end up getting a little pissed off anyway.
I think I do it, and maybe I don't wanna say that I don't get pissed off when I should, but I'm probably have a very high tolerance for that kind of thing. Mainly, I think it's a mix of coming from what I at least hope is a generous place, as well as a certain type of, like, sacrificial, almost like diminishing myself,
Like
a
playing the
like
martyr a
like
little bit.
worthiness, things like that. Well, I think through the course of these conversations, I mean, part of this also is that we've gotten to know each other. We have a lot more getting to know each other to
Yeah.
do. This is not one of those kind of podcasts where it's like two best friends who are just like
No.
shooting the shit, on a microphone. Like we've just gotten to know each other recently. And like we met each other in person at a premiere not far from here at the Netflix HQ.
Yeah.
It was an animated, what was it called? It was a
Was it Ultraman?
Ultraman. It was the Ultraman sort of reboot, and standing in line for something and kind of doing the hey thing, and I think maybe is an experience that you experience a lot in this town, right, where you see someone that
Yeah.
or that you recognize, I should say, and then you kind of meet eyes, and either there's a mutual recognition
Hmm.
or that person's looking at you like, oh, it's another fan looking at me
Totally.
with a certain kind of admiration. So it's always kind of really
Yeah.
nice when you have a connection, right?
Yeah, and I hate the other way around too. And I've done it. I just did it recently. So it's like I was at a Magic the Gathering like premiere thing,
Uh-huh.
and there's this woman. They're like, "Hey, it's what's her name?" And I was like, "Oh, like we met before, right?" And she's like, we never met." And I'm like, "No." I was like, "Oh, I know where you're from. You're from The Boys." So she was an actress on The Boys,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, and I never really got to finish that, but I was like. I never really got to tell her it's like, oh, it's really cool to see another Asian female here and like at this event.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But I was kind of like that moment of I recognize you and I'm a big fan of the show.
Yeah.
And I hate when it's not mutual because like here's the thing. I know how it can be exhausting on the other end, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. A lot of people are like taking photos, wanting to get to know you and all that stuff. And I always want to be respectful of the artist, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Like just leave them alone, let them do
Sure.
their thing.
Yeah.
And I fell for it. Like yeah. It was very humbling.
Yeah. Yeah. It can be like that.
And I felt the same with you though. Like when we were in that line,
How
like I
so?
did recognize you.
Uh-huh.
But the thing is, though, like I want to leave the artist alone, if that makes
Uh-huh.
sense.
Sure, sure.
Like give
It
them
is
the
it's a little bit
space.
like if you ran into somebody that you recognized on the street versus like if you saw them at a restaurant, they were having dinner with somebody. Like you don't want to interrupt in that situation, that kind of respecting their space and their kind of autonomy, privacy, like all that stuff.
I've had that too,
Yeah.
right in the middle of lunch.
Yeah.
And my ex was always like, "Why do you do that?"
Why do you do what?
stop in the middle of lunch and just take photos with a fan or something. And I'm like, well, she wasn't saying it in a bad way. She could just see that like I was kind of like, oh, we're eating. It's like,
Yeah.
can you finish?
Of the many topics that we'll talk about, and probably repeated times on this podcast, it's a boundary thing.
Boundaries.
It's a boundary thing.
So do we have boundaries with each other?
Well, I think that in that situation,
Let's set up our
there was
boundaries.
just enough going on when we first met to where when we saw each other, there was like just enough of a hey, kind of thing. And yeah, it's like a lot of encounters, right? Where it's like, oh, like you kind of do it at the same time.
So let's set up boundaries for each other now.
Okay.
So when can I text you and not text you?
You can text me anytime.
Really? 1 a.m.
And then, well, part of the boundary is like I'm sending text anytime.
Right.
An important part of boundaries is like I've said now you can text at any time. And that's its own sort of responsibility that comes with that.
I'm going to test that one out.
Yeah. Well, my phone also will not, the alerts won't go off like
can
after
I call
a certain
you?
time.
What about calling you?
You can call.
Anytime?
Yeah, anytime.
Okay.
Yeah. And if I can't talk, I won't answer.
Ooh. But
And
what if
I'll
I
call
call
back
twice?
later.
What if I call twice in a row?
I mean, I might, depending on what's going on, I might be like, okay. For instance, like when, this might be a good time to introduce Kimmy.
Oh, yeah.
Because Kimmy is behind the cameras and
I might be waking her up in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
So she'll know what's going on.
So Kimmy's here. Hi, Kimmy.
Hi.
Kimmy's got her own microphone. Kimmy is not only my fiance and partner, but also going to be producing the podcast.
Yep. And she'll be monitoring me.
Yeah. And I think that on occasion will be play a very important role of speaking for all women. Or maybe for people who aren't, all people who aren't in this room.
Where I'll chime in, I think here is what would be useful is what each of your understandings of boundaries is. I know it seems to be a simple word and tossed around, very common in conversation, but different people have a different understanding of what boundaries are.
So tell me what boundaries are, because I actually learned what boundaries were.
Well, then tell me.
So I used to think boundaries was kind of like what everybody else thought was, okay,
don't cross this line.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, don't call me at 7 a.m.
Yeah, don't do that.
Right.
Yeah.
But
that's a boundary for me. You can't do that.
Right.
Right.
What I learned was you can state, hey, if these are my times for you to call, which for me, it's really kind of actually a little bit like, I don't have an open call policy. I'm kind of like, hey, 9 to 9, like call me, text me.
Okay. 9 to 9.
9 to 9. But if you do, I'm not going to pick up or I'm not going to answer. That's the boundary, right? Like you're just saying, like, I already said, I don't like to be called on or texted or bothered. I'm meditating or doing some Zen things, which if you call, it's going to take me out of my Zen.
Yeah.
Which I think tells me I should probably meditate more if it gets me out of my Zen. But the action for me of the boundary is you can't cross this line. I just won't pick up.
Right. It's saying there is a line. If you cross it, then I will blank.
Right.
Then I will not answer. I will not be your friend anymore, or whatever. Like, right, whatever the thing is that you've stated. I do think that sometimes people get a little bit too eager to like define these things in like in stone tablets and like this is what these words mean.
Yeah.
I think that there is a casual use of a lot of these terms. We talked about gaslighting before, boundaries. There's all these sort of words, like buzzwords that people throw around. And so I like to be respectful and inclusive of the idea that like not everyone is subscribing to the same definitions of things. I think that's really important in a diverse society. That said, there's sort of like the kind of like psychobabble psychologist sort of version of it, which is indeed it's about like it's stating something and it has to do with like this is what I will do,
right?
In a situation.
So I guess another boundary. What about sleepovers?
You want to sleep over?
Do we get sleepovers?
Sure. If you ever want to come down,
testing your boundaries.
If you ever want to come down all the way down to Temecula where we live.
Where is that?
It's like how long did it take us today? Like a little over 2 hours to get here today.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Wow.
With just moderate traffic.
It's
about 100 miles.
I Uber everywhere, so I'm not coming. I'm not
If
coming.
you ever want to, it's nice. It's nice sort of rural countryside stuff.
Shit.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
sleepovers are allowed.
Yeah. Can I sleep over your place?
Yeah, you just got the couch. I mean,
Yeah.
Kimmy can sleep in the massage chair if she wants. Like,
You have a massage
I have a
chair?
massage chair.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was left over from Bling when they were just giving away massage chairs for us and stuff.
How interesting.
It's pretty cool.
How interesting. So speaking of, we kind of had like a topic of the day
Yeah.
that we wanted to talk about. Speaking of Bling and Bling Empire, you had shared on social media that you and your partner fiance Devon had split up. And
Yeah.
how many months has it been now?
So it was December of last year.
Oh, 2025.
And then we went to couples. Well, actually, so in 2025, and then in 2026, first month, we had a project that we had to finish up together.
Mm.
So we haven't talked since then. Then we were back on set together, went to couples therapy, and then shortly after couples therapy, split ways.
Yeah. So you
Yeah.
had shared with me that you hadn't really talked about it, at least not
No.
publicly yet.
Yeah, I've talked to my therapist about it a lot,
Uh-huh.
behind closed doors a little bit, but especially like on the podcast that I was doing before, like it was more about the guest anyway.
Sure.
And so I never really got an opportunity to talk about it publicly.
Well,
And
let me ask you this. Like we're gonna jump around timeline wise a little bit. And being someone who's been divorced 2 times, we can talk about breakups. There's a lot to talk about. A lot to
it felt like a
share.
divorce because we had an LLC together.
Sure.
We lived together.
Sure. To back up a little bit, like I actually rewatched the few clips from Bling Empire yesterday just to kind of catch up in preparation for today, of like the clips where she shows up on the show. It's at the very end of the 3-season run.
Yeah.
Right. It's like the last 2 episodes is kind of where she appears and then kind of is referred to like in third person after that. But you'd been together since then. When did were those scenes shot? Because that was at the beginning of like at least this stretch of your relationship.
Yeah, so it was in 2021 in the very beginning, or 2022. Was it 20? Yeah, 2022, the very beginning of 2022. And we saw each other the year before 2021, December, or actually November, when I was back home. And I reached out to her again and said, hey, look, just was thinking about you and love to see you again.
Uh-huh.
So we saw each other again in Boston. And in Boston,
You went out there?
I was going out there for Thanksgiving. And then
Why were you in? Why Boston?
well, I was actually in Philadelphia because that's where my family is.
Right.
And then I just took a train up to Boston to
okay.
see her afterwards. The film crew all wanted to be there, obviously, but I was like, no, this is like something.
Is that how those things go? You're like
Yeah.
just kind of planning out your life,
Yeah.
and they're like, oh yeah, we're coming. And you're like, no, boundary.
Or here's where I was actually dabbling with the idea. I told my producers, because our job in reality TV is to tell the producers everything we're doing in life.
Right.
Good, bad, major events. I thought this was a major event, so they should know. And yeah, they wanted to film. They just wanted to, pick up shots or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And, I thought about it. I was like, if I want this relationship to start off authentic, because if this works out as just friends, fine.
Right.
But I don't want it to make it like I'm this reality TV guy that doesn't know boundaries or something that could harm somebody. Like bringing her into a TV show, surprise, here's some
Right.
cameras,
Right.
is, I think, blindsiding, distrustful,
Sure.
and kind of
It's not
just
fair.
It's not fair to her.
Yeah,
She
it's
didn't
not
sign
cool.
up for it. Like all I did was just to go there, apologize for the way the relationship ended 6 years before,
Uh-huh.
catch up on life,
Uh-huh.
see if there was a connection. If not, I was willing to let it go.
Yeah.
There was a connection. Then we got back together a little bit, a few months afterwards. She came out for Chinese New Year and she just never left.
What do you mean she just never left?
Well, she was only supposed to stay with me for a couple weeks.
Uh-huh.
And then we flew out to Paris shortly after she got here. That really expedited our relationship really fast. And then, yeah, she just never left. Like, she just stayed with me the rest
She
of
just
the time.
stayed.
Yeah, and then, like, flying to Paris really brought us back together again.
Mm.
It was just, like, one of those things where we just reconnected again there. And it was just like, whoa, gosh.
So
This is
I want
amazing.
to fast forward to you posting online.
That we're together or the breakup?
The breakup,
Breakup, yeah.
I'm interested in, like, and I think that maybe folks listening and watching would be interested too. It's like I've said this before, and I'll keep saying this. Like, the Kevin that you've seen on TV and elsewhere, like, is very much the Kevin in real life. For you personally, like, why post about it online anyway? Is it because you feel like this was a public relationship to begin with, and so kind of thing?
That's exactly right. I mean, it was a public relationship, and so I think for us to put something out there public that we're not together only made sense because at the end of the day, if you Google us,
Mm,
it just shows that we're happily engaged. And I don't think it's right for both of us to live on to think like, oh, it's a happy ending. Like
yeah,
sometimes it's not,
yeah.
like, and so I thought it was for both of us to do it. I ran it by her. I was like, hey, look, are you okay with this?
Yeah.
And she was really okay with it.
Yeah.
So I thought that was best for both of us.
So I told you I'd say congratulations. My standard thing I say to people when they have breakups is, "I'm sorry and congratulations."
So what's the congratulations
The
for?
congratulations is that even, like, no matter which side or what happened in the breakup, that I guess it's sort of congratulating people for, the opportunity for something new.
Yeah.
Not just a new relationship only, that maybe that too, but really just to be able to kind of turn the chapter in that way and start in whatever fresh ways that you can is, it's a gift, it's a blessing, it's
Yeah.
an opportunity. And so I think that deserves a congratulations. It doesn't always feel like it,
Yeah.
but most of the time it eventually will feel like. How much do you feel comfortable talking about this? Because again, it's one of those things I think
Yeah.
for the public and people listening, it's interesting, sort of the idea of, like, you have these people who are somewhat in the public eye, and, like, how open and honest can people actually be when they're
Right.
talking about these things?
Especially when they're not here to put their side.
Devon's not here,
Devon's not here to
right?
put their side.
So there's like what's good for you as like a professional,
Yeah.
your public persona. There's what's good for you as like Kevin, the individual, and then there's what's like right as like a person, like a human being, right?
Look, I've talked to people about this too, and all throughout the 4 years we were together, people in my AA group, both of our families said it's not starting off right. And what
Mm,
they mean by that, it's like our relationship started so intense, such a huge fantasy. It was really hard to keep living up to.
how?
Even though I know like it's not our job,
Uh-huh.
it was to love each other. But yeah, like the public pressure, the pressure of my new relationship along with my new
So you're
career.
saying just by nature of that, it was something that was like your relationship started on TV, that it puts a lot of pressure on.
Yeah, it does. And
Like
especially
what? Tell me about the pressure though. Like,
so I think the pressure is like, for instance, are we gonna have another season
for the show of the
for the show?
show.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
because like how could it not? It was a huge hit the first
Yeah.
season, even though the second season not as big, like
Yeah.
whatever, like why not, right?
Yeah.
There's no
It's going to
reason.
New York, but
Yeah, it's going
LA's
to,
LA.
and
Yeah.
then no, we didn't have it.
Uh-huh.
And so I think afterwards it was more like, oh shit, this is real. Like, how are we gonna really continue
Mm.
our lives here together, right? Like, so we always wanted to be actors. So like, she was pursuing acting, and by the way, two people in the same industry,
Uh-huh.
especially as unstable as acting,
Yeah.
super hard.
It's hard.
Especially since neither one of us are nepo babies, and so like that makes it harder.
Sure.
Financial pressures, even religious pressures,
Right.
right? Because she became Christian.
Uh-huh.
I would even say it seems like newborn Christian, which I think she would probably say she is a newborn Christian,
Born again Christian.
born again Christian. So
Uh-huh.
she wouldn't say that; she would say born again Christian. And just a lot of things happen in our lives. Like I was going through some stuff with my beverage company that I started a long time ago. That went under. I was trying to get my feet above the ground again, or what do they say? What's that saying?
Head above.
There you go, head above the ground, head above water.
Yeah.
That's it. You're here to help me with these analogies too.
The idioms.
Yeah, the idioms. What'd you call me? No. You help me with these things. So I think it was just a really great setup for the relationship, but also a great setup to fail at the same time.
Uh-huh.
I feel like I failed too as a guy.
You failed?
100%. Like,
100%.
I feel 100% like a failure in this relationship because there was, in Devon's defense in saying this, because this is what she said, and I remember this, it was one of the last things she said to me. It was like, she's like, I feel so bad for us. Like, there's no reason why this can't work out, and yet it's not. And it's like, it really hit me because it's like, on the outside, yeah. I mean, like, we live in a beautiful place. Yeah, it's a 1 bedroom. It's not a 2 bedroom. We don't have our own space, but whatever. It's like, we were on a great show. Like, we love each other. On paper, it looked really great. And even on socials. But then inside the house was so much turmoil, anxiety, fights, not talking to each other for maybe even a month on end, right? Like, there was a lot of stuff that we could not figure out. And we gave it 4 years. And then at some point, I was so drained. Even when I went to my therapist, there's this questionnaire about like all these things, like lack of life, like lack of enthusiasm in life. Do you have days where you just don't want to check? Everything was checked. And at the end,
It's like a depression kind of checklist.
yeah, the therapist said, like, you're actually depressed. And I was like, that's what that is. Like, I was in acting class and I couldn't have an emotion, any of it, even manufactured. I felt numb. That was the word that I even said to my acting teacher. I was like, I feel numb. And I just thought, oh, I shouldn't be an actor. But no, it's like I was literally just depressed. And it took me getting out of the relationship to not be depressed anymore. And by the way, like, there's still days, like, before we started to do this, you asked me how I was. And I was like, if you would have asked me yesterday, it's pretty shitty.
Yeah.
I missed Devon. I was anxious. I was feeling pretty depressed. Like, but I get out of it. It's like today, not like that.
Yeah.
But on paper it looked great, but then inside it was just a lot of turmoil.
When you say on paper it looked great, I mean, who cares what the paper?
But that's what I mean. It's like, but even the feelings for each other were genuine in there. It's not like one of us hated each other.
Right.
It's just that, I think when you mix so much uncertainty in our industry that we're at, financial problems. I was writing a book about masculinity during this whole time, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, man, I'm failing. Like the provider role, definitely check. Not even, like I was providing, but it was like
Inconsistent.
it's getting harder.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about a wedding, we're talking about all these things, and it's like the bills are just getting higher and the income's not matching.
Yeah.
Like, and I think for me, not having agency over my own finances and career stuff, because
Right.
then we combined our career together. I think that was actually our downfall, was combining our career persona and brand together too much. You know what I mean? It's like everybody just saw us as Kevin and Devon for a while. And it's like, no, like we both wanted to be on our own feet. Like, this is Devon, singer,
But
actress. Kevin.
But that's your work, which relates to personal relationship life, but that's not what you would characterize as the problem.
No, I mean, like, it was really just I'll just talk for myself. It's my inability to be able to handle the problems that were met when being in a relationship with someone like Devon. And when I mean with someone like Devon, I don't mean she was bad. I just mean that, like, even my therapist said this. It's called chemistry for a reason. You can love each other, but if you put the wrong chemistry in a pool, it can explode. You put it in the right atmosphere, it can grow. And for some reason, when we're together, there's so much intensity, there's so much codependency, I would even say, that happens, that it just like destroyed what we had.
I always think that, and both through my experiences personally, as well as just like observing like people in the world. Like one of my big things about relationships is that relationships is very often a skill issue. There's things you can learn, but there's a lot of like sort of innate ability that comes just from the way that you grew up,
Like a
your
natural
childhood.
talent to
People talk about attachment these days, like all those personality types, like all those sorts of things, like the kind
so
of mind that you have, the way that you process information, the way you process your emotions, like all these things are relationship skills.
but what different skills did you bring in from the first two relationships you had as
Mm.
opposed to now? Or did you learn skills as you went along?
I think that there's things that I learned. There's mostly things that I learned about myself, but so much of it for me, and Kimmy can chime in. So much of it really was that we found each other. You know that there's so many things that we have in common. There's also a lot of things that are very different about us. But, for the first time, and we say this to each other all the time, that it's like, this is the first time I found the kind of partnership that I'd been looking for.
Mm.
And, that sounds a lot like chemistry, right? Like, oh, well, this is like about puzzle pieces that fit together. But, for me, it was that like through my relationships, I felt like I was showing up in a way and doing like saying the things and doing the things that I felt like I was supposed to and I felt good about.
Do you
And
got yeah.
still like things would fall apart and there'd be fights and upset and all these sorts of things. And to some degree the sad fact is that like I don't know, I think I always carried a certain insecurity about it, and or more specifically an uncertainty, like am I just full of shit? Like am I actually doing the right things and approaching things the right way, or am I totally off base and I'm like delusional? And meeting Kimmy in many ways and us getting together did help sort of heal a lot of that
Mm.
and make me realize like no, I actually like was not perfect. I'm not saying I was perfect in doing
Mhm.
making all the perfect choices, but that like I was, my foundation and the way that I was thinking about stuff was valid, and for that matter, like demonstrating a certain amount of like relationship skill, which if you might call it that.
Yeah, because the skill that I think I lacked the most and what my relationship lacked the most was how to fight and also recovering from a fight. If there could be a skill that could be taught for that, I think that would save so many relationships, mine especially.
Were
Yeah.
you gonna say something?
You guys want to fight?
No.
You want to show us?
I thought I
Do
saw
you
Kimmy.
two want to show us how to do it? Please.
No, I mean, it's not saying that we haven't had our disagreements and stuff like that, but what we try to when we talk to our kids, because Nick has daughters that are of,
Young adults.
young adults dating age, and it's about a certain level of respect, right? And where you cross that line is where you can't recover from when it comes to fight.
I think a lot of my fights came from violation of boundaries, but then this is where I take responsibility now, knowing what boundaries are, is that I allowed it to happen. Because only I can allow somebody to violate my boundaries, if that makes sense.
Right.
So, like, I definitely know that there was a lot of boundaries crossed, even though it was told. And then I allowed it to happen. And that created a lot of resentment in the relationship.
One of the things that's one of the hardest, I think, truths in relationships is that so often I would say that in situations where things are stressful, there's strife, there's fighting, there's, tension, there's pain in a relationship, that the question that we pose ourselves, that we ask ourselves is like, how do I make this better?
Yeah.
How do I,
Yeah.
fix this situation?
Mhm.
And the thing that's really hard, maybe one of the hardest things about these situations, is when you realize, and comes sometimes with hindsight, is the right answer, how to fix a relationship was to break up.
Mm.
And that like it was to leave the relationship.
Yeah.
You're trying to fix something that's not fixable, you know.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
in your relationship there, do you feel in the hindsight 2020 kind of way that either you shouldn't have gotten together in the first place, or that maybe at least like you should have maybe broken up sooner?
I think
It's a tough one, but
no, I actually know what it is. I think we should have probably broke up sooner. There were signs. I think she even felt it, right? Like for instance, her going back to Christianity was a result of our relationship being in turmoil. Like it was on the very edge, and then she found Christianity, helped make things better. And I think that was kind of a sign of like, no, things aren't really right,
mm,
you know? And so even when I was actually the one who broke it off, and that's hard to say because I would never want her, um, because I know she still wanted it. You know, she thought it was salvageable, and I could not find a way.
mm,
I could not see a way. And I even I told her, like, I prayed about this for a long time, just could never find a sign, never felt a sign.
mm,
And the hardest thing I've ever done was not staying in the relationship, but was getting out of it. Because I told her it was like, it's not just for me, it's for you. Like I've seen her change too, but not in a good way.
mm,
Like I saw her power and her light dim,
mm.
and that's not who she is.
Yeah.
I saw mine dim. I became more agitated, more restless and discontent about everything. I was depressed, like I said.
Yeah.
That's not me. Like I'm a very happy go lucky type of guy normally. Like
Golden retriever.
yeah. With a bulldog inside, just waiting to come out.
Uh-huh.
But that bulldog was actually the one that came out the most then.
Mm.
And that was hard. And so I hope this was the best decision. But I feel like it still was because like I still watch from a distance once in a while. Her social stuff comes up, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's the Devon I
Wait,
remember.
wait. When you say it that way, then it tells me you're not sure.
No. What I mean
You're
by
not sure
that,
if you made the right choice
no,
or
what I mean, I
did the
say
right
I
thing.
hope. I'm like, I can only speak for myself that
Uh-huh.
I know is good for me. I don't, because she's not here. I can't tell her if she still
Yeah,
feels
but
that
that's
same
not
way.
you don't get to decide that for her, right?
No, I don't. That's why I say like, I guess I'm still in the whole collective of we. Like, I will say this for myself.
Mm.
It was definitely the best move.
You're used to thinking of her and her well-being and
Yeah.
her like yeah.
So I would say for myself, it was definitely the right decision.
That's so interesting.
And it's still the hardest one for
Yeah.
me to still admit today. Like, it had to happen.
Yeah.
And I know that she wasn't going to do it.
Mm.
And I know that the only way to get out of this turmoil and this anxiety and to get relief was just a clean cut,
Yeah.
you know? And I think it's right. Like if I look back on it, yeah, there was a sunk cost fallacy. You know, you think that, you know, you put so much time and investment in it and you're like, no, I'll just try to do more,
Yeah.
you know? And I think that's why the engagement happened. I was like, no, maybe I'm just not doing enough, you know, like I should be, because things were rough even before the engagement, you know?
Sure.
And so then this engagement came up because I was going to Rome anyway. There was this thing that I wanted to see that only happened. It's a centennial year or whatever. It only happens every 100 years. So I wanted to go. And I'm like, well, whatever. Maybe I should propose because I want to be with her. Even though this isn't, maybe it's like me proving to God that like this is ready. And I'm like,
Uh-huh.
afterwards, I'm like, no, like I think it's just showing me we shouldn't be.
Mm.
And so it was just one of those things that, yeah, hindsight, we should have ended a lot earlier, but I was holding on. And I also held on because I kept thinking to myself, this is what men tell me all the time. Relationships are tough. They're really
Sure.
hard. So I just thought this was normal.
Yeah.
Of course, this is a great relationship. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard. But that's what a relationship is. That's what I was told.
Yeah.
You know, and so I
Yeah.
kept going through it and I kept toughening it out because that's what I'm told I should do. And I did it for 4 years. Well, not all 4 years was like that, but it was probably 3.5.
Yeah.
And so I just, like I said, bad advice, bad things from people that say that, you know, like relationships are just really tough. You know, like I even heard a quote like, if it's 51% good, 49% bad, then you're with somebody, it's a keeper, you know? Yeah, because I was going to say, most people in great relationships I hear say the opposite. They're like, no, like, it's hard, but it's not even close to what you're saying. It's hard in like, it's like the problems that you're dealing with as a couple are
Yeah.
hard.
I think that the idea of that relationships are hard can mean so many different things.
Yeah.
You know, I think that if if I were to ask, like, for Kimmy in my relationship, like, what is the hardest part? It's kind of realizing all the patterns and habits that I had developed over the years and things that go back to childhood that I'm sort of forced to, like, I'm forcing myself to, break those patterns. And that's the part that's hard. It's
Yeah.
hard in the way that, like, trying to quit smoking is hard, or like, becoming sober can be hard for so many people. It's that, like, there's a thing that you want to do, and you going against it, not because it feels right, but because it's right, you know. And the great thing here is, like, knowing and experiencing every day, like, how it's cumulative, how, like, the positive sort of, like, feedback loop.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure this is a part of being in AA, is, like,
Yeah.
what is it called? Chips? Or, like, whatever, like, however many years, like, all these
Your
sorts of things,
chips.
right? Like, where it's every day makes it easier for the next day.
One
Ye
thing, well, I was gonna say one more thing I think I learned too is we didn't have to compromise. It would take too much for us to change. And like what I mean is like make big changes about ourselves.
what do you mean?
So for instance, like the financial part,
Uh,
I come from a family background where men and women contribute.
uh-huh.
And she comes from a very traditional, Vietnamese, Asian cultural. It's like, no, like men feel good as a Vietnamese man to be a sole provider. Why don't you feel good about it? And I'm like, because there's a lot of expenses here in LA,
Yeah.
like, and I don't have family support here, and it's just me. And now I have me and and I have to be the man, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And that required way too much change, which I know some men will be like, well, you're a beta, all that shit. It's like, well, no, I was doing it. But it's like, it just wasn't something that there was compromise, if that makes sense.
Mm.
It required me to be a totally whole different DNA and makeup.
Uh-huh.
Like it didn't feel like a partnership. You know what I mean?
Then that's important.
Yeah.
And if you can't be on the same page about what kind of partnership, what your partnership looks like. I mean, it sounds like from what you've shared that that was like a persistent sort of constant through the relationship, is a little bit of a different definition of what this partnership even
A
should be.
huge one in the sense, right?
Yeah.
Like that's why I said it required me to change drastically.
Yeah.
And I'm always about maneuvering and becoming better,
Yeah.
but it's like it had me like almost like taking a 180. And it
Yeah.
just like that was very tough, like I said. Like
Yeah.
I was just coming into my own in my own career, learning how to deal with that.
Yeah.
Then I have this and it's just like a 180. I'm like, that was just really it's a lot to deal with at one time.
Yeah.
And for me, it was overwhelming for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Breakups are hard. Relationships are hard,
Yeah.
but it, you know, I'm proud of you for enduring and doing what you needed to do. It takes a lot of courage. Sometimes breaking up can look like cowardice from the outside. It's like, oh, well, you're running away from the hardness of it. But in my experience, there's a lot of courage, especially especially as a man. I think that you touched on it before, which is that, like, you're so used to thinking about us collectively. I'm responsible for safety and for security, those sort of things that are so often, like, kind of attributed to men in relationships. Then to pull the whole rug out from under that, and basically, it feels like you're looking at your partner who you've cherished for so long, and it's like you're on your own, and you're putting them in danger
Yeah.
after being so focused on trying to keep them safe. And what makes it even worse is not just how it feels to you, but you having some sense of what that's doing to them.
Yeah.
Right? You're taking their safety and security, like, and completely just ripping it away from them. It's a terrible, terrible sort of, like, feeling and terrible
Yeah.
thing.
And that's what I also learned this. It's like if anybody, whoever comes to my life, doesn't fit my idea of partnership, they're definitely better off finding somebody who does.
Mm.
Like it's not worth the energy or trying to change for that
Yeah.
to happen. And I think that's where I have a problem sometimes is like I will think I can fit them, even though I'm a square hole trying to fit into a round peg.
Yeah.
It's like I'm trying to force myself in there, it's like trying to make it work for her,
Yeah.
and I'm like, but it's not me.
It's not you, but then as you're going into dating, and we're
I
gonna
thought you were
talk
gonna say
about this
daddyhood.
more,
Were you gonna say daddyhood?
daddy daddyhood is a whole separate conversation, I
Yeah,
think. The
but it has like
dating and
all the dating.
relationships, like kind of getting out there, and you've been dating. We're gonna talk about that more over the
Yeah.
next, few episodes and stuff too. Like, I think that, what I want to encourage you to do is there's so much that you feel and experience, through relationships, through breakups, that it's hard to imagine, like, adding on to that, like, a whole nother layer. But, you are in therapy, and, you go to your AA meetings and stuff, and you're already so far ahead of so many people in terms of being able to make that space to think about yourself
Mm.
and, like, look within yourself, for, all the things that you need to. And I think that with relationships, yeah, it's like the idea of finding the right fit is one thing. Again, it's like these puzzle pieces, like, do they fit together? But also realizing these things aren't set in stone. They are things that can be worked on. And not because it makes you better at finding a relationship, but because it makes you better, like, for your, like, within yourself.
Yeah.
I think that, for me, my last divorce and the last, like, few years, my transition into this life with Kimmy, I've been really characterizing as a journey of self-love. Because I realized one day when I was in my prior relationship, like, oh my God, I don't love myself. I don't even really know what that fully means. And so the next few months, if not a couple years, was spent trying to figure out even what that means. And then, realizing, like, if I don't know what it means, then I don't love myself. And trying to figure out how to sort of solve that problem. And it's been one of the harder things. And it's something that I'm still, working on. But
Oh, I love
yeah,
that. It's like what we say in AA sometimes is like, we'll love you till you learn how to love yourself.
that's sweet.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not so easy.
It's not.
Yeah.
Nobody said it was.
Kimmy, you've been listening. What are I know Kimmy always has thoughts. I want to know what Kimmy thinks.
About what?
Is
About
this
this whole.
vulnerable enough for you, Kimmy?
It's good. Where I'm interested, as the conversation continues, is that what from the breakup did you learn, and what will you carry over? What were some of the positive things, like that can take over into now your, new possible relationships that you may have?
No, there's definitely positive things I learned about myself is that I am valuable in a relationship. Whereas like before going into it, I didn't think I was.
Mm.
Like I didn't think I could provide anything for someone, especially long term.
Mm.
Two, that I am a committed man. Like for instance, like 4 years together and for 1 year not having any type of sex or masturbation for a whole year. It came because Devon was exploring her new faith as a Christian,
Mm.
and she said that she can't see herself being with somebody unless she does this journey, and I agreed to it. And so I think choosing to be celibate was really powerful for me because it's like it showed me that like, oh, I can control this.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the most ideal situation, but it was like I can do this.
Was that something that maybe you wouldn't have been able to handle, like, in your younger years?
See, I don't know. I because like here's the thing about the celibacy part. Like at least like in my younger years, I would have negotiated and been like, can I at least masturbate? Like here, it's like you can't even masturbate. So it's like I think if
That's
I
so
was
interesting. That's
young,
so interesting
yeah,
that was her insistence.
yeah, for pure celibacy, yeah. So I think for me, it was like, okay, it's a challenge. I'm up for a good challenge. But going through that really proved a lot to me of my discipline, of controlling myself and self control. Could you do that?
I don't know. I never thought about it.
All right, Kimmy. Let's see this in action. She's going to hate me. She's like, Kevin, you just made me
I'm up
nice.
for anybody wanting to do whatever with their bodies.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah. I'm sure we'll explore some of these topics as time goes on.
totally,
But,
totally.
in terms of our relationship in that way and values and how we think about things.
I think we should be celibate with each other, Nick, for sure.
You and me?
Yeah. I don't think we should.
There has been this recurring theme of like, how are we going to get ourselves to the Korean spa?
Yeah, you and Kimmy. Well, actually, no, it's you.
It's just me. Yeah, don't bring Kimmy into this.
Yeah, want to get me to the Korean spa. I know what happens there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys go in a sweat lodge and bond, and
Sweat lodge.
you have tea afterwards.
Yeah.
I hear it's a good time.
Yeah, it's just like hot tubs.
Yeah,
Just hanging out.
just hanging out.
Yeah, we should go.
All right. Maybe that'll be our next show.
Literally hanging out.
That's
All right. Yeah.
that's right.
Are we going to a naked one or a clothed one?
There's no such thing as clothed Korean spa.
Uh,
Well, there's clothed sections, but you got to do the little yangmari little thing, the little sheep's head.
does that sheep's head go on the other?
We'll make one just for
Okay,
just
yeah.
for little Kevin.
You can do like a little video. Little Kevin. Just one. I object to that.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, we'll do a little video because I saw that sheep's head that you did. It's like, oh, this is how you do a sheep's head part 2.
that's only for the paid subscribers. Well, this was good. It was a good first episode.
Yep.
Thanks
I
for the
love it.
chat.
Totally.
Yeah.
I feel healed.
A little bit.
I do. It's very cathartic, actually.
Yeah, it's good to talk about stuff.
Yeah.
We talked about it a little bit earlier, but and pulling the curtain back a little bit, it's like it's hard to sort of say these things up front, having sort of like it's easier to kind of look back on these things. But yeah, our intention was, can a couple guys get together, a couple straight guys get together and talk about things in a way that are very like more emotionally informed and aware. But still, I don't know if this will come out right, but then still kind of like in a masculine way, if that makes any sense. Because, I think obviously this calls into question a lot about, what the hell does that even mean? Why do we have to even talk about it in a gendered sort of sense? Like why all this sort of stuff. But hopefully folks will be along for the ride as we talk about these things.
Totally.
And so we want to hear from you if watching this and listening to this has brought on or inspired any questions or comments, anything that you want to say. We want to know, what do you think of what Kevin has been able to share, what I've shared.
If you want to see us in a Korean spa,
I'm sure. I don't see why we can't do an episode from a
that's
Korean
more
spa.
your fans,
Is that right?
I can see Nick trying to like make a third account or something. It's like, yes, do the Korean spa. Make a comment like, I guess we gotta do it.
For now, we'll set something else up later, but for now, like, I think Instagram is the best way to get in touch with us through either DMs. I think, yeah, send us a DM.
Totally.
DMs are open. The Instagram account is
Dad and Daddy Show.
Dad and Daddy Show at Dad and Daddy Show, and you can find the link through either one of our socials. And maybe we'll play your video, audio, or read your message.
Be cool to get an audio question.
Yeah.
I like that.
Or video. We're going to have YouTube and Spotify video.
Love that.
So,
Who's
but
going to be
no
our
pressure.
first? Who's going to be our first?
Yeah. So send us that. But until next time, on behalf of our super producer, Kimmy Chan, and me, I'm Nick Cho, your Korean dad.
And I'm Kevin Kreider, your daddy.
All right. See you next time.